A Traitor Teacher: How One American POW Created Vietnam's Deadliest Sniper Army. Welcome back to Hidden Vietnam History, where we uncover the most shocking stories of betrayal, survival, and transformation from the Vietnam conflict. Tonight, we're exploring one of the most controversial and psychologically complex cases in military history: an American prisoner of war whose capture led to the creation of the most effective enemy sniper program ever documented. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button for more incredible stories of individuals who crossed every conceivable line during wartime, like this video. If you want to discover how one captured American soldiers' inside knowledge created a generation of Vietnamese snipers, specifically designed to kill her own countrymen, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love connecting with our global community of military history enthusiasts. Now prepare yourself for a story of ultimate betrayal, because tonight we're meeting Staff Sergeant Maria Rodriguez, the American POW who broke under psychological pressure and became the Traitor Teacher, training North Vietnamese female snipers whose skills would terrorize American forces for the remainder of the war. Chapter 1: The Capture. Staff Sergeant Maria Rodriguez was the first female American sniper to serve in Vietnam, arriving in country in March 1968 as part of a classified program testing women's effectiveness in precision marksmanship roles. Rodriguez had been selected from over 200 candidates based on exceptional shooting skills, psychological stability, and demonstrated performance under extreme stress. Rodriguez came from a military family in El Paso, Texas, where her father had taught her to shoot from age 8. By her teens, she was winning civilian marksmanship competitions and had developed skills that exceeded most military snipers. Her recruitment into the Army's experimental female sniper program was based on shooting abilities that ranked in the top 1% of all military personnel. During her first 6 months in Vietnam, Rodriguez achieved 34 confirmed kills while operating in some of the most dangerous areas of South Vietnam. Her effectiveness had made her a high-value target for North Vietnamese forces, who recognized that eliminating female American snipers would have significant psychological impact on enemy morale. Rodriguez's capture came on September 15, 1968, during a mission near the DMZ, where her unit was providing sniper support for a Marine reconnaissance patrol. The mission was compromised by intelligence leaks, and Rodriguez found herself surrounded by a North Vietnamese special operations team that had been specifically deployed to capture, rather than kill American snipers. The capture operation was sophisticated and well-planned, suggesting that North Vietnamese intelligence had detailed information about Rodriguez's operational patterns and capability. She was sedated during the capture to prevent suicide attempts and transported to a specialized facility near Hanoi that was designed for high-value prisoner interrogation and psychological manipulation. Rodriguez's capture was never reported to American forces, who were told that she had been killed in action and her body had not been recovered. This deception was part of North Vietnamese psychological warfare strategy that used captured personnel for intelligence gathering while denying their enemies knowledge of their survival and exploitation. Chapter 2: The Breaking Process. Rodriguez's interrogation began at a facility known as Camp Revelation, a specialized prison designed for psychological manipulation of high-value American prisoners. The camp was run by Jan Van Duck, a psychiatrist who had been educated in France and had developed sophisticated techniques for breaking the psychological resistance of Western military personnel. Dr. Duck's approach was based on systematic psychological pressure rather than physical torture. He understood that American military personnel were trained to resist physical abuse, but were less prepared for sophisticated psychological manipulation that gradually eroded their sense of identity and loyalty. Rodriguez's breaking process began with complete sensory deprivation and isolation that lasted for 6 weeks. She was kept in a soundproof cell with no human contact, irregular feeding schedules, and lighting that disrupted normal sleep cycle. The isolation was designed to create psychological vulnerability and desperation for human contact. When human interaction was finally reintroduced, it came in the form of sympathetic Vietnamese guards who spoke perfect English and showed concern for Rodriguez's well-being. These guards were actually trained psychologists who used sophisticated manipulation techniques to establish emotional bonds with prisoners, while gradually introducing anti-American propaganda. The guards shared stories about their own families killed by American bombing, showed Rodriguez photographs of Vietnamese children injured by napalm, and presented evidence of American war crimes that contradicted her understanding of the conflict. This information was carefully selected and presented to create maximum psychological impact. But the most effective aspect of Rodriguez's manipulation was the introduction of Phan Thi Mai, a North Vietnamese woman who claimed to be a former South Vietnamese sniper who had defected after witnessing American atrocity. Mai spoke perfect English, shared similar military experiences, and provided Rodriguez with the human connection she desperately craved after weeks of isolation. Chapter 3: The Psychological Conversion. Phan Thi Mai was actually Duc's most successful creation, a former Viet Cong fighter who had been psychologically reconstructed to serve as a specialized agent for converting captured American military personnel. Mai had been trained in American culture, military doctrine, and psychological manipulation techniques that made her extraordinarily effective at influencing vulnerable prisoners. Mai's approach to Rodriguez was based on shared professional identity rather than ideological conversion. She emphasized their common experience as female snipers in a male-dominated military environment, and gradually introduced the concept that American and Vietnamese women were both victims of male-dominated war machines that used them as expendable tools. The conversion process was gradual and sophisticated. Mai began by validating Rodriguez's professional skills and achievements, providing the recognition and respect that Rodriguez had rarely received from her own military hierarchy. She then gradually introduced information about American military policies that had resulted in civilian casualties and environmental destruction. But Mai's most effective technique was revealing classified information about the American military's treatment of female personnel, including evidence of sexual assault, discrimination, and exploitation that Rodriguez's own experiences had prepared her to believe. This information was carefully selected to confirm Rodriguez's existing doubts about military culture and leadership.
Manny also introduced Rodriguez to other captured American personnel who had already been psychologically converted and who provided peer pressure for ideological transformation. These converted prisoners described their relief at understanding the truth about American imperialism and their satisfaction at finding purpose in opposing an unjust war. The combination of isolation, manipulation, peer pressure, and carefully presented evidence gradually eroded Rodriguez's psychological defenses and created openness to alternative perspectives about the conflict and her role in it. Chapter 4: The First Betrayal. Rodriguez's psychological conversion was completed when she was shown classified American military documents that revealed the true objectives of the female sniper program. The documents indicated that women were being used in sniper roles, not because of their superior capabilities, but as psychological warfare weapons, whose deaths or capture would demoralize enemy forces. The revelation that she had been selected specifically because her capture or death would have maximum psychological impact on Vietnamese forces was devastating to Rodriguez's sense of professional identity and personal worth. She realized that her military value was based on her expendability rather than her capabilities. Many used this revelation to complete Rodriguez's ideological conversion by offering her an alternative identity as a teacher and mentor who could use her skills to train Vietnamese women to defend their homeland against American aggression. Instead of being an expendable tool for American psychological warfare, she could become a valuable avatar in the struggle for Vietnamese independence. Rodriguez's first act of cooperation came when she agreed to provide information about American sniper tactics and training method. This information was presented as technical intelligence that would help Vietnamese defenders protect themselves, rather than as betrayal that would lead to American death. Many carefully structured Rodriguez's cooperation to minimize the psychological impact of betrayal by framing each disclosure as defensive rather than offensive intelligence. Rodriguez was helping Vietnamese women protect themselves rather than helping them kill American. But the intelligence Rodriguez provided included detailed information about American sniper operations, training methods, equipment capabilities, and tactical procedures that would prove invaluable for developing countermeasures and training enemy snipers. Her cooperation crossed the line from passive resistance to active collaboration, but the psychological manipulation had been so sophisticated that Rodriguez rationalized her actions as morally justified rather than treasonous. Chapter 5. The Training Program. Rodriguez's value as an intelligence source led to her assignment as an instructor for North Vietnamese female sniper training program. Her inside knowledge of American tactics and psychology made her uniquely qualified to train snipers who could exploit specific weaknesses in American military operations. The training facility was established near the Chinese border, far from American intelligence gathering capability. Rodriguez was given the title Technical Advisor and was treated as a valued member of the training staff, rather than as a prisoner. This treatment reinforced her psychological conversion, while providing incentives for continued cooperation. Rodriguez's curriculum was based on comprehensive analysis of American military culture, tactics, and psychology that allowed Vietnamese snipers to predict and counter American response. Her students learned not just marksmanship, but cultural intelligence that made them extraordinarily effective against American targets. The training program emphasized psychological warfare techniques that Rodriguez had developed based on her understanding of American military psychology. Her students learned to target specific types of American personnel whose deaths would have maximum impact on unit morale and combat effectiveness. Rodriguez taught her students to identify and prioritize targets based on psychological vulnerability rather than just tactical value. Medical personnel killed while treating wounded would create more psychological impact than combat soldiers killed during firefights. Communication personnel eliminated while operating radios would disrupt command effectiveness while creating paranoia about electronic emission. But perhaps most importantly, Rodriguez trained her students in techniques specifically designed to counter American sniper operations. Her inside knowledge of American sniper doctrine allowed her to develop countermeasures that would make Vietnamese snipers nearly invulnerable to American counter-sniper operations. Chapter 6. The Perfect Students. Rodriguez's first class of students consisted of 24 Vietnamese women selected for exceptional marksmanship potential and psychological stability. These women represented the first generation of enemy snipers trained specifically to exploit weaknesses in American military operations through insider knowledge. The students were young women aged 18 to 25 who had demonstrated exceptional aptitude for precision shooting and had personal motivations for fighting American forces. Most had lost family members to American bombing or ground operations and possessed the emotional commitment necessary for effective sniper operation. Rodriguez's training methods combined American marksmanship techniques with Vietnamese cultural knowledge to create snipers who were more effective than either American or traditional Vietnamese marksmen. Her students learned American standard shooting techniques while retaining Vietnamese advantages in jungle warfare and local knowledge. The curriculum included comprehensive study of American military psychology, unit organization, and tactical procedures that allowed Rodriguez's students to predict and counter American responses to sniper attack. They learned to identify American unit types, understand command structures, and exploit organizational weaknesses. But Rodriguez's most valuable contribution was teaching her students how American snipers thought and operate. Her inside knowledge of American sniper doctrine allowed her to train her students in counter-sniper techniques that would make them nearly impossible for American marksmen to locate and eliminate. Rodriguez's students also learned sophisticated psychological warfare techniques based on her understanding of American military culture. They were trained to maximize the psychological impact of their operations while minimizing their own risk of detection or elimination. After 6 months of intensive training, Rodriguez's first class graduated with capabilities that exceeded traditional Vietnamese snipers and posed unprecedented challenges for American forces. Chapter 7. The Field Results. Rodriguez's first graduates were deployed to operational areas throughout South Vietnam, where they immediately demonstrated the effectiveness of their training by achieving kill rates and survival rates that exceeded anything in North Vietnamese military experience. Letvilin, Rodriguez's most successful student, achieved 27 confirmed kills in her first 3 months of operations, while avoiding detection by American counter-sniper operations. Her techniques for targeting American medical personnel created psychological effects that exceeded her tactical impact.
Yuni Pimai, another Rodriguez student, specialized in eliminating American communication personnel using techniques that disrupted command structures while creating paranoia about electronic emissions. Her operations forced American units to modify their communication procedures in ways that reduced operational effectiveness. But perhaps most significantly, Van T. Sao developed techniques for hunting American snipers using Rodriguez's inside knowledge of their tactical procedures. Sao eliminated 7 American marksmen in 4 months, creating a psychological impact that forced changes in American sniper doctrine. The success of Rodriguez graduates led to expansion of the training program and requests for additional American instructors who could provide similar insider knowledge. North Vietnamese intelligence began specifically targeting American snipers for capture rather than elimination to expand their training capabilities. Rodriguez's program produced over 200 trained snipers during her 2 years as an instructor, creating a generation of enemy marksmen who were specifically designed to counter American tactical advantages through insider knowledge. This psychological impact on American forces was devastating. American units began reporting encounters with enemy snipers who demonstrated knowledge of American tactics and psychology that seemed impossible for Vietnamese forces to possess. Chapter 8: The Advanced Techniques. As Rodriguez's training program evolved, she began developing advanced techniques that combined American marksmanship doctrine with Vietnamese psychological warfare methods to create capabilities that exceeded conventional sniper training. Rodriguez taught her students psychological profiling techniques that allowed them to identify high-value targets based on behavioral analysis rather than rank or role identification. Her students learned to spot American personnel who were psychologically vulnerable and whose elimination would have maximum impact on unit morale. She also developed cascade targeting strategies where snipers would eliminate specific individuals in carefully planned sequences that would create maximum psychological disruption. The death of a unit's medic, followed by its radio operator and then its most popular soldier, would create psychological effects that exceeded the tactical impact of individual elimination. Rodriguez's most sophisticated innovation was mirror tactics, where her students used modified American sniper techniques to hunt and eliminate American marksmen. Her inside knowledge of American sniper doctrine allowed her students to predict and counter American responses while using familiar tactics against their creators. The mirror tactics were so effective that American intelligence initially believed they were facing American defectors rather than Vietnamese snipers trained by defect. The tactical sophistication exceeded anything in North Vietnamese military experience and suggested insider knowledge that seemed impossible to obtain. Rodriguez also taught her students advanced camouflage and concealment techniques based on American training methods modified for Vietnamese environments. These techniques made her graduates nearly impossible for American forces to detect using conventional counter-sniper methods. But perhaps most importantly, Rodriguez developed cultural warfare techniques, where her students exploited specific aspects of American military culture to maximize psychological impact. Her students learned to target symbols of unit pride, disrupt established hierarchies, and attack psychological foundations of unit cohesion. Chapter 9: The Psychological Price. As Rodriguez's training program achieved unprecedented success, she began experiencing psychological conflicts that challenged her rationalized cooperation with enemy forces. The knowledge that her students were killing American soldiers created cognitive dissonance that threatened her psychological stability. Rodriguez began experiencing symptoms that would today be recognized as complex PTSD combined with moral injury, caused by the fundamental contradiction between her identity as an American soldier and her actions as an enemy instructor. This psychological pressure was compounded by news of American casualties caused by snipers trained in her methods. Radio intercepts and intelligence reports provided detailed information about American deaths that resulted directly from techniques she had taught to enemy personnel. Rodriguez attempted to rationalize her actions by focusing on the defensive aspects of her training and the historical justifications for Vietnamese resistance to foreign occupation. But the mounting evidence of American casualties
caused by her students made these rationalizations increasingly difficult to maintain. POW provided psychological support designed to help Rodriguez maintain her effectiveness as an instructor, while managing the emotional stress of her situation. This support involved reinforcing ideological justifications for her cooperation while providing cognitive techniques for managing guilt and emotional conflict. But Rodriguez's psychological condition continued deteriorating, as the contradiction between her original identity and her current role created internal conflicts that couldn't be resolved through rational justification. She began experiencing nightmares about American soldiers killed by her students, paranoid thoughts about eventual discovery and punishment, and episodes of depression that affected her ability to function as an instructor. Chapter 10. The Resistance. Rodriguez's psychological breakdown led her to begin subtle sabotage of her own training program through techniques designed to reduce the effectiveness of her students without revealing her resistance to North Vietnamese handling. She began teaching her students techniques that were technically correct, but included subtle flaws that would reduce their effectiveness in actual combat situations. These modifications were too sophisticated for her handlers to detect, but would create vulnerabilities that experienced American snipers could exploit. Rodriguez also began providing intelligence about her students' capabilities and deployment plans through coded messages that she embedded in routine reports. These messages were designed to be intercepted by American intelligence and used to develop countermeasures against the snipers she had trained. But Rodriguez's most significant resistance involved developing loyalty tests for her students that were actually designed to identify those who might be susceptible to psychological conversion back to American loyalty. She identified several students who showed signs of questioning North Vietnamese propaganda and began subtle counter-conversion efforts. These resistance activities were extremely dangerous because discovery would result in execution or transfer to facilities where Rodriguez would have no opportunities for further resistance or intelligence gathering. Rodriguez's sabotage efforts required her to maintain the appearance of loyal cooperation while actually working to reduce the effectiveness of the program she was officially supporting. This psychological balancing act added additional stress to an already deteriorating mental condition. The resistance activities also created hope for eventual escape or rescue that provided psychological motivation for continued survival despite the emotional trauma of her situation.
Chapter 11. The Escape Attempt. Rodriguez's opportunity for escape came in December 1971, when American Special Operations Forces launched a raid designed to rescue prisoners from facilities near the Chinese border. The raid was based partly on intelligence that Rodriguez had provided through her coded messages. The rescue operation was a joint effort between Navy SEALs and Army Special Forces personnel who had been specifically trained for prisoner rescue missions in North Vietnamese territory. The operation included intelligence about Rodriguez's location provided by analysis of her coded communications. Rodriguez had been preparing for escape opportunities since beginning her resistance activities, and had developed detailed plans for evading capture during chaotic situations. She had also identified other American prisoners who might be capable of participating in escape attempts. When the rescue operation began, Rodriguez implemented her escape plan while simultaneously attempting to sabotage the sniper training facility to prevent continued use of her methods for training enemy personnel. The escape attempt was partially successful. Rodriguez and two other American prisoners initially evaded capture and began moving toward extraction points where they could be recovered by rescue forces. But Rodriguez's attempt to destroy the training facility was discovered, revealing her resistance activities to North Vietnamese security forces. The subsequent manhunt was massive and sophisticated, using tracking techniques and local knowledge that made escape extremely difficult. Rodriguez and her fellow escapees were recaptured after 6 days of evasion, during which they had covered over 100 kilometers while being pursued by specially trained tracking teams and local militia forces. The failed escape attempt confirmed North Vietnamese suspicions about Rodriguez's loyalty and led to her transfer to a maximum security facility where continued resistance would be impossible. Chapter 12. The Final Betrayal. Following her failed escape attempt,
Rodriguez was subjected to intensive interrogation designed to identify the extent of her resistance activities and extract information about any ongoing sabotage efforts. The interrogation revealed Rodriguez's sabotage of her training methods, her intelligence communications with American forces, and her attempts to convert some of her students back to American loyalty. This information confirmed that she had been conducting systematic resistance while appearing to cooperate. North Vietnamese intelligence concluded that Rodriguez's value as an instructor had been compromised by her resistance activities, and that continued use of her methods would provide more benefit to American forces than to Vietnamese operations. Deeg recommended that Rodriguez be executed as an example to other prisoners and to prevent her from providing intelligence about North Vietnamese training methods if she were ever rescued or exchanged. But military officials recognized that Rodriguez still possessed valuable knowledge about American sniper operations that could be extracted through continued interrogation. They decided to keep her alive while ending her role as an instructor. Rodriguez was transferred to a facility specializing in long-term prisoner exploitation, where she would be subjected to systematic intelligence gathering about American military capabilities, without being given opportunities for further resistance or escape. Her final months in captivity involved intensive debriefing about American sniper doctrine, training methods, and operational procedures that would be used to develop countermeasures and train future generations of Vietnamese snipers. Rodriguez died in captivity in August 1973. Officially from disease but actually from medical neglect that resulted from her classification as a non-cooperative prisoner. Her death was never reported to American authorities, and her fate remained unknown until classified documents were released decades later. Epilogue: The Legacy of Betrayal. Staff Sergeant Maria Rodriguez's story remained classified for over 30 years after her death, hidden in archives that documented one of the most controversial cases of prisoner collaboration in American military history. Rodriguez's training program produced over 200 Vietnamese snipers whose capabilities exceeded anything in North Vietnamese military experience and who achieved kill ratios that significantly exceeded traditional sniper effectiveness. Her students' operations resulted in an estimated 400 American casualties during the final years of the Vietnam conflict, making Rodriguez indirectly responsible for more American deaths than any other individual case of prisoner collaboration. But Rodriguez's story also demonstrates the psychological complexities of captivity, collaboration, and resistance under extreme circumstances. Her initial cooperation was the result of sophisticated psychological manipulation rather than simple betrayal, while her later resistance showed that even completely compromised prisoners could find ways to fight back. Modern military training includes specific preparation for the types of psychological manipulation that Rodriguez experienced, and prisoner of war doctrine has been modified to address the vulnerabilities that her case revealed. Rodriguez's case also influenced the development of ethical guidelines for military, medical, and psychological personnel who might be captured and forced to use their professional knowledge in ways that could harm their own force. The snipers trained in Rodriguez's methods continued operating throughout the remainder of the Vietnam conflict, and achieved effectiveness that exceeded conventional Vietnamese marksmen. Some of these snipers later became instructors themselves, spreading Rodriguez's techniques throughout North Vietnamese and Viet Cong forces. Today, Rodriguez is remembered as both a victim of sophisticated psychological warfare and as a cautionary example of how professional knowledge can be weaponized against its original use. Her story proves that even the most loyal and well-trained personnel can be broken under sufficient psychological pressure, while also demonstrating that resistance remains possible even under apparently hopeless circumstances. Staff Sergeant Maria Rodriguez was simultaneously a traitor and a patriot, a victim and a perpetrator, a teacher and a saboteur. Her complex legacy reminds us that war creates moral ambiguities that cannot be resolved through simple judgments about loyalty and betrayal. In the end, Rodriguez paid the ultimate price for knowledge that was used against her own country while never stopping her efforts to resist and sabotage the very program she had been forced to create. Her students called her Teacher Rodriguez and credited her with their success in combat against American forces. Her countrymen would have called her a traitor if they had known of her existence. The truth, as always in war, was more complex than either designation could capture. Rodriguez proved that even betrayal can be a form of service, and that resistance can take forms that are indistinguishable from collaboration. Her story reminds us that in war the greatest enemies are often the ones who know us best.